Top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of her WBC interim title defense this weekend, unbeaten Skye Nicolson says the full focus is on Saturday night. We can look at the Serrano fight after this.
In my previous video, I talked about how Lucy Wildheart is a deviation from the kind of fighters that Skye Nicolson has been fighting so far, and beyond that, there is the Amanda Serrano fight.
The unbeaten featherweight Skye Nicolson is one of the mandatory challengers in the queue for Amanda Serrano, the record-setting 7-division champion and the division's reigning undisputed champion. Australia's Nicolson holds the interim WBC featherweight title, which she will defend versus Lucy Wildheart this Saturday on DAZN in Dublin, Ireland. Full focus on this Saturday night's fight. We can look at the Serrano fight after this. Nicolson acknowledged during the final pre-fight press conference on Thursday at the Dublin Royal Convention Center. I have to get the job done this Saturday first. What is it that Skye needs to show more of?
Infighting, inside game, and more of a work rate.
Skye Nicolson has the look of the pure boxer, pot-shotting from the outside on the balls of her feet,
moving around.
Pure boxers are often thought of as being tactical and technical, cerebral fighters. It's not often you hear someone refer to a pure boxer as being a limited fighter, but they very much are. Just as limited as a boxer who's confined to fighting on the inside, they are limited to boxing from the outside. If that's the only range you're comfortable boxing in, you're a limited fighter. And you will only get but so far staying on the outside. Sometimes you gotta get on the inside and get your hands dirty. And that's what I want to see from Skye. More of it. Skye, who says, I'm definitely the fittest, strong, and best prepared I've been for a fight. I've definitely not overlooked Lucy at all. I think she's a great athlete, but we're gonna see the difference in levels on Saturday. And as stated, up until this point,
till now,
Skye Nicolson has had the look of the pure boxer, the outside jabber.
And that's worked for her against shorter, stumpier fighters that don't have much reach, much wingspan. With Lucy, it's a deviation because Lucy looks to be a little taller than Skye Nicolson, a little longer.
Staying on the outside of an opponent that has just as much, if not more, height and length than you do, it could prove difficult managing the distance. Thus, fighting on the inside and putting punches together, that might be the way to go. And that's what makes this weekend's contest so interesting. That perhaps Lucy can test Skye Nicolson in ways in the pro ranks that she hasn't been tested before.
And what about Amanda?
Well, even if she takes care of business this weekend with Lucy Wildheart, passes that acid test with flying colors, what's that saying? That because she beat Lucy Wildheart, she's now ready for Amanda Serrano.
If the fight even happens.
Amanda Serrano is primarily a mid-range to inside fighter, shows the jab and steps into it to bring over other punches, hooks, uppercuts, body shots, mid-range to inside. That's Amanda's sweet spot, whereas so far, Skye Nicolson's sweet spot is on the outside. The reason she might feel so inclined to fight Amanda is because she figures she's got faster feet than Amanda and faster hands than Amanda, so she should be able to manage the distance. That's likely what Skye is telling herself.
Not accounting for Amanda's punching power, what punches do get in and what effect they will have. That Skye herself, she's not a big puncher. Can she keep Amanda off?
Not that long ago, Amanda Serrano had an all-out war, a shootout with Mexico's Erica Cruz. If it were Skye instead of Amanda opposite the ring, Erica Cruz, how do you think that would have went? Does Skye Nicolson really have the cardio
and the durability for a fight like that? Because that's the kind of fight that Amanda Serrano would bring her.
Amanda is a combination puncher, a volume puncher, whereas Skye is not. Skye likes to sharpshoot, only 1 and 2 punches at a time from a safe distance.
Working off the counter, the best example of how a fight like that plays out under the hot lights is the first Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron fight. In the early rounds, you saw Katie Taylor trying to use the ring, trying to move around, trying to walk Chantel into counters, but Chantel's aggressiveness and volume punching, it was too much for Katie at the start. She was getting banged up.
I think Skye would get banged up for the same reason. It's hard to imagine that she could win the rounds against Amanda, throwing just 1 and 2 punches at a time that maybe they land and maybe they don't, while Amanda's letting go of combinations. Amanda's walking you down and stalking you. After a while, in the eyes of the judges, it's gonna look like you're retreating. It's gonna look like you're getting bullied.
It's what makes this weekend's fight intriguing. Skye needs to show more, show that she can do more than box from the outside on her bicycle.
I feel like she has to do more to beat Lucy Wildheart this weekend, and she would have to do even more to try and beat Amanda Serrano.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, that is the fight that she's targeting, that's the fight that she's talking about, and that's how I feel about the fight.
It's nothing against her, but if she's got it in her head that she beats Amanda just because she's a little younger and a little faster,
it'll take more than that.
And that's if the fight even happens, because there's reason enough to believe it might not. It may seem to all of you that I'm taking shots at Skye Nicolson, when all I'm really telling you is this is a good young fighter that needs more experience. A lot more than what she's got right now. She's got a legitimate acid test in front of her this weekend, and let's see how she makes out. In PBC news, former champion Danny Garcia says the Lara fight was supposed to happen in December. It's looking like next year. And for me, it's mind-boggling that any promotional outfit would still be spending money on Danny Garcia fights when there's really no return. Although he doesn't have a clue when he'll actually face Lara, Garcia does know that his 2023 was essentially a wasted year. The fight was supposed to have happened in December, but it's looking like next year. Garcia told YSM Sports Media, "I won't be fighting in 2023. If that's not obvious enough, there's what little bit remains of November and all of December. And it's not a secret that PBC don't have a fight for Danny in December. So he's not telling us anything that we don't already know. That initially the plan was to do the fight between him and Lara for Lara's WBA middleweight title at the end of this year, but those plans have since been scrapped. I've no doubts that the people at the PBC may have decided to save that fight for the following year when they jump into bed with a new broadcaster.
Rumor has it they may end up going to Amazon Prime for what is a pay-per-view distribution deal, but those rumors have yet to be confirmed.
I used to fight at 140 in the amateurs, so I've been in the 140s my whole career. Now I'm letting my body breathe, and I can focus on training and being great. I feel better than ever, even if he's less active than he's ever been.
And he's supposed to be going to middleweight for what is Erislandy Lara's WBA middleweight title. Lara, he hasn't fought either.
Lara, who was elevated to WBA champion without a contest after Gennady Golovkin willfully relinquished his title to circumvent an order to face Erislandy Lara. I would have liked to have seen that fight. It's too bad it didn't happen. We only have Gennady Golovkin to blame. He's the one who chucked the belt, and that's how Lara got it.
Still in the realm of middleweight and super middleweight news, WBC middleweight champion Jermall Charlo says, "I'm still the best in the world," ahead of this weekend's fight, his first ring appearance in 2.5 years.
Saying that he is still the best in the world, I don't know that that was ever unanimous.
When was he the consensus best fighter in the world?
"I'm back to my old ways," Charlo told Brian Boomson Paul during a recent interview. "I'm ready to knock something out, given the mental state of Jermall Charlo and the fact that he hasn't fought in 2.5 years. Being honest with you, I don't trust him."
On paper, he should win. He's still unbeaten. He's reigning WBC champion. Not that the WBC title is going to be on the line. It isn't. This weekend's fight is being fought just above middleweight.
A testament to how farcical this weekend's comeback fight is for Jermall. He's not even fighting at middleweight. He's basically fighting at super middleweight against a guy who used to campaign as a welterweight. All the while, the World Boxing Council is still allowing him to keep that title, even though by all accounts, he has no plans of returning to middleweight.
What he says is that he's still the best in the world.
He has to say that because nobody else is going to say it for him. None of us are saying it with him. That the PBC is still spending money on Danny Garcia fights and Erislandy Lara fights, Charlo fights. How much dead weight they're still carrying. For Christ's sakes, they've dusted off Andre Berto and the ghost of the ghost of the ghost of Robert Guerrero.
Both those guys are 40 years old.
It's just a lot of dead weight, what they've got. Still using Andre Berto and Robert Guerrero to decorate undercards. And what about Danny Garcia? What's the return on staging a Danny Garcia fight? Because people are still clamoring to see him. They're clamoring to see Lara, even if it is a title fight.
And what about Jermall Charlo? A listless useless, absentee middleweight champion? What's the point in still staging fights for him? Who's clamoring to see him?
Do you actually get a return in staging fights for any of these guys? Perhaps the reason the PBC is still staging fights for so many of these old-timers and keeping them in circulation is because none of those standout amateurs and none of that new blood seems to make the decision to sign to the PBC. You will notice that many of these standout amateurs, the American ones, the good ones, they went over to Top Rank, and some of the other ones, they went over to Matchroom.
The blue chip prospects and young guys coming out of the amateurs looking for a major promotional outfit to promote them, most of them seem to have partnered up with either Top Rank, mostly Top Rank, or Matchroom. Very few, if any, went to the PBC. So the PBC has very little in terms of fresh faces and new blood. Hence all these old guys in their mid-30s still being kept in circulation.
Which wouldn't even be the worst thing in the world if they would just branch out and actually do something. Do something exciting. You can still find use for a fighter like Danny Garcia if you put him in the ring with a Jaron Boots Ennis or a Virgil Ortiz at junior middleweight, maybe a Conor Benn.
Danny Garcia versus Lara does not get my juices going. What would be Lara versus Yanibek Alimkhanalai for what would be the WBA, WBO, and IBF titles. I could go for that.
Instead, both Danny Garcia and Lara have squandered this entire year thinking that they were going to fight each other towards the end of it. I just feel like, you know what? If you guys really wanted to fight, you'd branch out. You'd get out there and have a fight. You just want to stay on your side of things. That's all I see.
More than you actually want to fight.
These guys ain't got no momentum, so that when they come back to the sport, their fight's likely going to be hidden behind a paywall. So how many pay-per-views do fights like these put up? How many can you actually sell? As it pertains to that same issue, and in keeping with the theme of all things PBC, a good number of their fights, what seems to be their catalog of fights, has begun to pop up on the Prime Video platform, the Amazon Prime platform, heralding a potential partnership between them and lending credence to the notion that the people at the PBC have so decided to go with that Amazon distribution deal. The rumor is that Amazon will be distributing their pay-per-views moving forward. That's the rumor.
Marketing and advertising their pay-per-views moving forward and distributing them on their platform, though in terms of an arrangement similar to the one that they had with Fox and similar to the one that they had with Showtime, where they get an annual budget to do fights throughout the calendar year.
The rumor is that's not part of the deal. That is not the arrangement. A more conventional arrangement between a broadcaster and a promotional outfit in boxing is they give you money to do fights and create content for them. But per the rumor, and don't shoot the messenger, the rumor is they're not getting an annual budget from Amazon. We've no confirmation of that, but what we are starting to see towards year's end is PBC fights, old ones, popping up on the Amazon platform.
It looks like Amazon purchased their existing catalog of fights, the old ones on Bounce, some of the ones on Showtime.
If the rumors are true, and this deal really is just limited to the distribution of PBC pay-per-views, that's actually less than ideal. It's not really cause for celebration, as that would limit their ability to promote what other fighters they have, what other unbeaten up-and-comers and guys they're developing. You'd be relying on existing brands, so to speak, what fighters already draw, and there are not that many of them in their stable.
When you pay attention, a lot of those guys are either approaching 30 or in their mid-30s.
Late 30s.
Some approaching 40.
It's not a young stable. I suppose the saving grace is that they don't actually have that many young, unbeaten up-and-comers they're developing anyway. So what you have to remember is they're competing with Top Rank, they're competing with Matchroom and Golden Boy, who don't have all their content hidden behind a paywall on pay-per-view, I should say. These are platforms that you have to subscribe to, but you don't have to pay an additional charge to see every one of their shows. Whereas when it comes to the PBC, if the rumors are true and the nature of their Amazon deal is really just a pay-per-view distribution deal, what are we looking at? 6 to 7 pay-per-views annually?
That's 6 to 7 times a year. You're gonna have to come out of pocket just to be able to see their fights, and is it worth it?
At a price point of potentially $80, on top of whatever you're paying everyone else in subscription fees and what pay-per-views they might stage in the coming calendar year, you may end up having to pay the PBC every time they put on a show. Them going to Amazon, at least for me, Amazon Prime, would be a seamless transition as I am already subscribed to Amazon Prime.
Though if it's only for pay-per-views, that really isn't that sweet a deal. The more ideal scenario would be Amazon giving them a budget to do those mid-level shows and that content throughout the calendar year. That would be ideal, but
that's not the rumor. The advantage of having your content distributed on a very big platform like an Amazon is it will be shown to millions upon millions upon millions of people around the world. The caveat is that it's pay-per-view content, if the rumor checks out. And if it's a pay-per-view, it doesn't matter how big the platform is, it's behind a paywall, and that limits the size of the audience. So fighters that are not already draws...
It doesn't do but so much for them.
Yeah, you can sell a Canelo fight. You can sell a Canelo fight anywhere on any platform. Showtime, DAZN, ESPN if you want to. You can sell it on Prime. But what about all these other guys that need fight dates? What about all these other guys that don't draw like Canelo draws?
I imagine that if they end up doing 6 to 7 pay-per-views annually on the Amazon Prime platform, you're going to be looking at what are double-stuffed undercards, because the fighters are going to be relying on those pay-per-views just to be able to get out there. The ones that don't leave, the ones that don't decide maybe they should branch out, like Wilder. You see where Wilder's next fight is taking place.
According to Wilder, in his own words, his upcoming fight with Joseph Parker will be distributed in this region of the world by way of the DAZN platform.
Looks a lot like he jumped ship to go where the opportunities are, the opportunities for big money.
I anticipate if fight dates are scarce, he's not going to be the only one that does that.